Oh, and by the way,
Yeah.
I have a hard out at like I gotta jump at like 5 to 4 because I'm co-chairing a
Yep.
songwriter composer meeting. So I kind of
Gotcha.
need just 5 minutes to gather my thoughts.
Okay, cool. And it's funny because I'm supposed to be on this call for this thing I'm doing with these folks at a church at 6:30, but I'm just going to listen in first, and then I'll let them know that like I'm wrapping up a meeting and I'll listen in.
Mhm.
So, all right. So here's the deal. Um, I'll show you what if I have it on this computer. I hope I do, because
Mhm.
I think I might have messed around and done something stupid. Put not stupid. Let me not say that. Something odd. Oh, here it is. Yeah. All right. So what the one thing does is it asks you this question. All right. What is the what's the one thing that you're focused on? Like really, what are you really focused on with your work, with your life? You can do this with any area of your life. You can do like what's the one thing that'll make a difference with your family? What's the one thing that'll make a difference with your music? What's the one thing? And essentially what they're trying to get you to do is prioritize the vital few things that you do that have the biggest impact,
Mhm.
right? So this is the question that they have you pose. What's the one thing I can do such that by doing it, everything else will be easier or unnecessary?
Win the lottery.
Yeah, exactly. Especially the last one that just happened, right?
Oh my God.
Oh, that was bananas, bro. I mean, people were buying those things like hotcakes over here, man.
Yeah.
Um,
I actually meant to, but I just forgot.
yeah, I know. And man, I'm the cat. I know this is gonna sound crazy, right? But I think if I were to play it, I would win and I would jack my life up. I've
I'm
always,
willing to take that risk of jacking my life up.
dude, I would lose it.
I probably would have won when I was like, for some reason, when I was a teenager,
Uh,
I won so many things, just like radio call-in stuff. Like
uh,
I would be the 10th caller. Like multiple times I did that. And I won like thousands of dollars. I bought myself a computer, like,
what?
yeah, stuff like that.
Yeah,
I
see,
don't know, but I think my luck ran out. So I don't know.
I
I
get
don't
it.
win anymore.
I get it. I get it. So that's the question right there. And this is what the
Yeah.
whole book is based on. It's based on the Pareto law, 80/20 principle.
Hmm.
Um, and so so that's one thing. Then they go on to say this. This is the next thing. So these 7 areas of your life is what they have you focus on. And they ask you to ask that question in each one of those areas of your life. What's my spiritual life? What's the one thing for my physical health, for my personal life, for my relationships, for my job, for my business, for my finances. And this is from the book, right?
Okay.
Now, here's the thing. Um, when I've done this in my practice of like the arts, well, everybody knows why it's more of a dancer than anything else, right? Like if you had to say, what's the one thing that Wyatt can do better than anything else, I'd have to say dance.
Hmm.
Then I would say the second one thing is theater mixed with like a hip hop thing, like, words and theater, hip hop and theater to me go together, right?
Yeah.
So so that's that. So here's what has come out of this that's really powerful. And this is why it works. And this is the piece that I learned over the weekend when I did the retreat.
Hmm.
So I did this retreat over the weekend virtually. I was supposed to go to Texas, and um, I was supposed to go to Texas and do the retreat. It was like $1,700 to go, and you stay in a beautiful resort. They give you all kinds of information and packets, but the most important thing you have is a community of people that you then link up with, and you work on these things together. Now, if you go with a company of people, you get a different package. You You work together on the stuff they give you. It's a 2-day retreat. They've been doing it for a while, and people go away from these retreats and they literally, if they follow the program, it literally changes how they do business, how they handle their personal lives, all kinds of stuff happens. Really good stuff.
Yep.
So I thought it would be worth it for us to do a one thing practice with We Move in Color. And I thought, based off of what I saw on the retreat, so I did do the retreat, was almost like $500 to do the virtual piece, and you get access to all of the resources that everybody had at the actual in-person retreat. And one of the resources was how to do a one thing goal setting kind of model with your business. And the first thing they ask you to do is to dream out 5 years. What do you think your business will look like in 5 years? And they say, go all out. Don't worry about it sounding too crazy or weird or whatever. And then you work backwards. You go from 5 years, and then you start breaking it down this year, and then you get to now, like today. And then what is the one thing that you can do today that can help the dominoes? And if you see here, the domino effect.
Yep.
The small domino is today.
Mm-hmm.
The bigger domino would be like the month or whatever, the other one. So you're basically making these dominoes fall.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't possibly make the big domino fall by going straight from the small one to the big one. You have to, have a progression. And so what they claim is that, and I've seen this in my own life in other ways, that if you just do the little bit of things every day that lead up to those big goals, you have a higher probability of achieving those goals if you were to just go from the small domino and try to do a big thing like out of nowhere.
Yeah.
So now I say this, and at the same time, we kind of did exactly what I'm talking about with We Move in Color. We went from a small domino of an idea, and within not even a year, we went to a pretty big domino. But we took a lot of small steps that we may not even have been aware of. So what I wanted to do tonight is just dream out. And the only way to do it is to just start doing it with a list. I don't have capacity right now on my computer to start typing. Again, do you have a way to start typing some stuff out that we talked about? All right, hold on a second.
Yep.
Robbie, what's up?
Hey, man, how you guys doing? Hey, what's happening again?
Hey, how you doing, man?
Good.
Okay, so I think I have to get online with another computer here because I have some of the stuff that I was scribing at work. All right, so essentially, guys, what I want to do is just jump right in and spend, if we can effectively spend, like, Gen, you have to leave at like pretty much like 10 of.
Yeah, 5 of.
Okay, no
10
problem.
would be better.
Okay, and I do have another meeting that I'm gonna fake it till I make it with at 6:30. I'm just gonna let them know that I'm wrapping up another meeting. All right. So here's the thing. I'm just gonna jump right in and start. I'm gonna take my screen away for a minute. And let's just go with the vision of We Move in Color. What's the vision? Where do we see this in 5 years?
You want me to start, or you want to start?
Go for it, Robbie. Whatever you, man. Listen,
Ken got the microphone right in front of his face, man.
You go first. Mine's going to be controversial, so you go first, Robbie.
Nah, we want to start with the controversy, man. We thinking big.
Okay, well, you're maybe not going to like this, but this is sort of what I'm thinking. I'm thinking in 5 years, somebody's actually bought the rights to the show,
Yeah.
and has flipped it into something with a narrative for Broadway, and it's a huge show on Broadway.
Yep.
Wow.
And we're actually not that involved anymore. We may,
Yeah.
we've retained a percentage. And
Right.
so we'll obviously reap the benefits of it being huge on Broadway. But
Right.
I don't know. That's just an idea that kind of when I got this 5 years prompt, it's sort of what popped into my head.
Yep.
That's dope, man. I mean, I think,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Let's go with that. Let's go with that. All right. I'm gonna popcorn mine in. I see a major motion picture series. And when I mean major motion picture series, I mean more like a docudrama series of different cultures all around the world, explaining in action and in music and in narrative and maybe some sad stories, but then triumphant stories of how their cultures moved in color through oppression, through all kinds of craziness. And I'm talking going back thousands of years up to present day. But I see a series of movies like Star Wars. Now I know this sounds really way out there, like Star Wars, but it's or Wakanda Forever, but it's real stuff. It's like these sequels are all connected to the big picture of people of color having to deal with colonialism and deal with imperialism and all the isms that divided up the world. So this would be a series of movies or a series of documentaries, big ones. I'm not talking small ones. I'm talking real big, big docudrama type films. Yeah.
You guys got big dreams, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, look, I've been in the music business for 30 years.
Yeah.
If I weren't a crazy dreamer, I would have given up a long time ago.
Yeah, I know that's right, bro. I got you, bro.
Everything I touch, I imagine like, oh, and this is what's going. And then, of course, 90% of the time that doesn't happen. But
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it. You're frozen. Oh,
Some level of dreams that about who we are and what we've done. Of course, being on planet Earth for a little bit, a few decades. Anyway, my thing actually has a little bit of both of what you guys already talked about. I'd like to see a global tour with this in some form. I also think that we should be packaging and preparing to sell it, or to have a partner that is able to take on, the ability to really push this in a way that we probably can't. So it sort of ties into what Gen says, not necessarily just Broadway. For me, I think film is definitely the way to scale this. And I want us to, obviously, at the end of the day, reap the benefits of our labor in a way that is residual, and so that has to be a factor in all of this. I also see several buckets, not just the film, not just the tour, but I also see us channeling the energy of a group of people that think creatively that is now, I think, a currency in this creative economy, right? So as a collective, we can be a consulting arm for these major players that we do business with, right? About new content, that kind of thing. So not necessarily pushing the tour. The tour may have already done what it needed to do, what have you, or somebody else is doing it. But the bottom line is that we are involved in some way, utilizing our skills, our gifts, our acumen, and teaching people how to do the business of how we collectively brought this together. That makes any sense?
Yep.
So down the road.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. So in light of what you all said, I'm not going to be more specific in that 5-year vision. We know that within the next few years, a lot of these big media companies are going to start conglomerates. They're going to just start coming together. And I wouldn't be surprised if Elon Musk buys Viacom and he buys some other company that I'm going to talk about. But this is the more specific version of what I'm getting at. I'm going to share my screen. So right here, these are the companies that I would like to partner with at some point. You see at the top, BET, Viacom, Sony. BET needs to be all over We Move in Color. I can see doing some kind of partnership, some kind of collaboration with BET on a level that's huge, similar to what I was talking about with having different movies or different docudramas that add up to this Black joy, people of color joy, where we're all we're highlighting the joy of being people of color through music, dance, and poetry and visual art. And BET would have something to do with broadcasting that. Viacom, I see, because they own BET, I see them partnering with us to do something along the lines of like the pop audience. So it wouldn't just be African American, it would also be Latinx. The biggest markets in the world right now, African American and Latinx, right? And in the Caribbean in general, still the #1 selling music at one point, I think it still is, was Jamaican music at one point. Bob Marley broke every record you can think of. And reggae music is still selling huge, right? So Viacom has its hand on a lot of those big pop markets. Help me out again if you know something different, but this is what I know. Sony right now has, to me, the most attractive kind of thing happening in New York and in California. Right now, Sony is producing the Michael Jackson Broadway musical that won all those Tony Awards. They're also doing soundtracks to films that I really like. So I like Sony for what it represents. I think they're delving deeper into high art, or art that is much deeper than just having hit music out there. Like Broadway, to me, is a huge thing for them to be investing in. Then Disney, we've been talking about Disney for a while. And I think Disney still is a great brand. They are sinister in certain ways, they're dark, but they also have a huge reach, and they're working on cleaning up their act. They're not making the villains anymore darker skinned people. And that was a real big issue in some of their cartoons. Very big issue. From Moana to Mulan to you name it. I could go down the list of all the, right? I had to do a paper on Disney in undergrad, and I got really depressed about Disney for a minute, but they have such a great outreach. Yeah. And I think they would be wonderful to partner with. PBS, I'm all over PBS because I worked with them for 7 years. I think a television show, a cartoon for kids called We Move in Color, where you see a bunch of children from diverse backgrounds playing together, listening to each other's music, eating each other's food, talking about their histories. That's a huge piece right there. And that could work, no question about it. Netflix, we know that Netflix would just be a great streaming platform. I don't know what their percentages are right now for content, what they give out, but Netflix is pretty big. And then I'll just wrap up these last few here. The National Endowment for the Arts is still one of the sexier organizations that has a huge outreach in this country. And I would like to get the highest endowment we could get from them, which is like $1 million. And that will take some time to get, but I'm willing to get in that line and get that. Harvard, we're connected to Harvard through the program that I'm involved in. I would like to have them actually reach into their endowment and give us some of that arts and culture money that they're sitting on, and let us produce the show there on their campus, a big production of it. Emerson College is the one on the right. They have the biggest venues now in Boston are owned by Emerson College. A friend of mine named Simon, last name Simon, I'm going blank, Simpson, she goes to my church. She is now on the board of Emerson College. And she called me and said, I heard your show is a hit. Would you be interested in bringing it to Emerson? She asked, how much would it cost? So that was, her name just went in and out. But her husband, Omar Simmons, is a friend of mine who owns Planet Fitness here in Massachusetts. He owns the franchise. And so she's now on the board. She can make that happen, but it will be like a year out from now, maybe a year and a half, because they're already in their cycle. And then lastly, Jacob's Pillow. Jacob's Pillow is not a 5-year destination, but it can be part of the 5-year destination for us to be featured at Jacob's Pillow as a premier piece. And they are the leading dance organization in the country. That's it for now for me.
Just to put a button on this, 5 to 10 year plans are often referred to as strategic plans. So, and so maybe that's the frame that we kind of put that in.
Yep.
How do we position ourselves to achieve these high level goals in the 5 to 10 year realm, right?
Yep.
The other thing that goes into a strategic plan is understanding the landscape that we're in. For example, how are people consuming the content that we're putting out or we want to put out? Are they going to the movie theater? Are they going streaming? Are they looking at live? Is COVID going to hit us again? Those are some of the kinds of environmental or say economic factors that play into what impacts your 5 to 10 year plan. So as we kind of get this a little bit more set in terms of, how we want to or what we want to do, those are some of the factors we'll have to weigh into a fully developed strategic plan. Mm-hmm. And of course, the more immediate now to 4 years is a lot more like a business plan that you're pretty much executing in the next day-to-day type thing.
Yep.
To the short term.
Absolutely.
1 to 2.
So you didn't see this, Robbie, when we first got on. Let me just show you what these one thing people were talking about, and then I'll be off the mic on this one because it goes right along with what you said.
Yeah.
Which is beautiful stuff, because right now my brain is starting to get open again. That's what happens whenever I start talking about We Move in Color. I start getting these inspirations that come.
Yeah.
And wait a minute, let me just find the document again. I'm known for doing this with Zoom. Is this it right here? Yep, this is it. All right. So essentially,
you sharing screen?
Yep.
There we go. Okay.
All right. So with the one thing, off the top, I'll tell you what the one thing helps you do is focus in on what's the one thing that you can do right now. So here's the question that they ask. This is at the cornerstone of their work. What's the one thing I can do such that by doing it, everything else will be easier or unnecessary? So they're specific in that. So if it's selling real estate, they'll say, well, what's the one thing I can do today? Such by doing it, everything else that's on the plate will be easier or unnecessary. So what they're looking at is the Pareto law. The 80-20 principle is what they've based this whole piece on. And what they say is that the vital few things will make up for 80%, of course, of your effectiveness, right? And so they ask that question so that you can focus in on your priorities.
Mm-hmm.
And the owner of the company says this all the time. His mantra is basically, I will not do the next thing until my number one priority is accomplished. So for me, that's a sexy thing because I'm used to working on 5 different ideas at once. And I have been told over the years, wait, hold up. Let's take care of this one thing first before we jump on to that. Right. And that kind of thinking is good if you're one of those people who has a lot of ideas. So what I'd like to do is just figure out of the list, because we'll come up with a list of all these things that we see. What are the things that we can do today? The one thing that we can do today, maybe one thing that I can do, one thing that you can do, one thing that Ken can do, one thing that Ken can, whatever. What is the one thing that we can do to start moving this thing forward in a way that will accomplish these big, big, big goals? So what they say is, look at every area of your life and ask that question. What's the one thing you could do in your spiritual life? What's the one thing in your physical, with your physical health, your personal life, your relationships, your job, your business, and your finances? So what I'd like to do is think really broad. And then, as you said, Robbie, and I love that language, the strategic plan can only get better once we see all the different things that we can do and then scale them down to what's possible today and every day. So that's where I'm at with it. And I can share with you where I'm at right now with my one thing, and I'll just be very transparent. Again, Robbie and I had a conversation today about, and I'm not going to spend no more than 30 seconds telling you this, about cast members who were let go of, who are now trying to convince me that they need to come back, in particular, Brandon. And so Robbie and I drilled down on exactly what needs to be said. So one of the things that I'm taking care of with the cast is to just solidify the people who we know are effective. And that's it. And then I'm going to open up the auditions in New York City at a spot a friend of mine has. I'll put the word out that I'm looking for a musical theater type African-American male who can rap and dance, and who can flow at spoken word, right? And that would be the griot part. I need to open that back up for auditions so that we're not relying just on Wyatt. You gotta get some people in the canon. So that's my one thing as well, with furthering the cast member pool, if you will. So that's the kind of stuff that I'm talking about, and that will help to make talking with the cast, working with the cast easier. And in certain respects, some of the other things that I was trying to do with damage control, that stuff is unnecessary. So that's an idea. That's an example right there.
Right.
How I'm implementing the one thing with the cast. Now, it doesn't mean that you only have one thing that you do with one project. It means what's the one thing in different respects.
Right. I think from where I sit is to deliver value to first this team, deliver value to the marketplace. I think that's important. In our infrastructure, and to make sure, deliver value. That's the overarching theme in how we approach the business, how we approach the process and the product. So being able to lead in that area, be able to speak to that area, and be able to think through possibilities in terms of, opportunity, right? So those are some of the immediate issues that we want to do, because we're going to need some processes in place to do what we're trying to do. Now, it may not be the end all be all, but it's got to be a start.
Yeah.
And so that's the thing, the one thing I think that has to be consistently echoed from my point of view is the value has to be there. The value in the relationship, the value in, what we again present to the world as part of our brand and that kind of thing. So it's all about, how do we drive that process as a team, and how do I shepherd that process as one of the key voices in this whole this whole piece production, if you will. So that's kind of where my head is, and also, I value, your input on that as well. As much as I think, we all have to lead our own spheres, but the point that I want to also make here is that it's collaborative, so yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And again,
I mean, if I knew what my one thing was, I'd be retired probably.
It's tough being a genius, again. That's what it is, right? It's tough being a genius, bro. So
no, I would say in regards to this production and this team in particular, my one thing is being available for all things creative in the production process. I mean, that is simply, without a doubt, my specialty. It's not going to be trying to get sponsors or having those kind of meetings, or dealing with the cast, or it's to create. It's like, we need background projection stuff, I can do it. We need video stuff, I can do it. We need animation, I can do it. Music, I can do it. So it's like, that's my one thing. My one thing is I create. And so, just being available for any facet of that, I guess.
Yeah.
Yep. And what I love about what they say is, now I watched the retreat for hours. It was like 2 full days of people who have accomplished very, very significant goals, talking about their process with this. And they kept saying, if you have a goal and you communicate that to your team, and everyone's clear that this is what the goal is, what will be the indicators that you are successful with it, or that it's been accomplished? How do you measure that those goals have been accomplished? And then once those goals are accomplished, how do you then measure how to get to the next goal that is connected to the goal that you accomplished? So what they keep drilling all throughout the conference is, how will you know when you can now move on to the next thing? How will you know? What do you need to see? What do you need to know from the evidence? Is it evidence-based, or is it just some kind of psychological thing? What is it? So if we just took what we did last month, October 6th, and kind of analyzed it, how do you know you have a hit show? For me, a 5-minute standing ovation.
Yeah.
Right? We had talked about people feeling it. We had talked about, wow, I remember some conversations Robbie and I was having where we kept saying, man, we're on to something, bro.
Yeah.
It wasn't evident to me, really, until I was standing there on the stage and looking at all these smiling faces, standing up, applauding. And then when I said, everybody say, we move in color, and they said it back to me in a roar, that was data.
Yeah.
Straight up data. Every scene got an applause. Data. People in the lobby didn't want to leave and constantly coming up to me and saying, this was amazing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Some of the footage that Lee captured that Gen brilliantly edited in there of people giving their feedback, that's what lets you know we have something. So now taking just those responses into this next iteration of what we're doing, how will we know that we have a viable tour that's starting to percolate? How will we know that we have enough money to do the work that is in front of us?
Those are good questions. A couple of thoughts on everything that was said, including something that Gen said. So there's a couple thoughts that I want to convey. One is, we all have an area of exceptional expertise. I am not a person who understands, nor I profess to understand theater. Period. Right. Let's get that out the way. Okay. Right. To the extent that I have been to the theater, my good buddy Wyatt is the theater guy, and I've learned a lot from listening and paying attention to the arts. Now I'm an arts guy. Right. I've been around the arts forever, including fine art. I worked at the African American Museum in Boston as a student, and I got to know Paul and his work as early as like 84, right? And so I'm very familiar with that. I studied a little bit of art. I wanted to be an artist growing up, right? The music stuff, you guys are experts at that. I've dabbled in music, I've written, and so forth and so on. And so the live performance stuff is a little bit of a stretch for me to speak authoritatively on. However, I've done events before, right? Produced events before, I got credits for at least one motion picture, done some television and that kind of thing. Today, as we speak, as an asset manager, and I don't tell everybody this, the company that I'm a part of and part owner of, small slither, roughly about $500 million worth of property. I oversee a big chunk of that day to day. It's kind of what I do. I watch how these folks put deals together, average $5-6 million. Some of the other deals, $13, $14, $15 million deals. These folks have money and know people that have money, right? I communicate with a lot of these people. That doesn't mean that the context could be transferred. What I do have, though, is an expertise now about thinking a little bit bigger when it comes to business. So I bring that acumen and not being, some people are afraid of money, to be quite honest. And it's not something that people are comfortable talking about. And having conversations in the millions and the tens of millions is not easy for everybody because they're not there. And I'm not saying that to be boastful, but what we're doing has that kind of energy and will need that kind of presentation, right? Because we're going to interface with entities that may want to invest. And what does that look like? You've got to put together a package that they understand. They need to see how they would benefit from that, how they're going to earn their money back. If they're investing, they want something in return. If they're sponsoring, they want something in return, right? On the level that we're looking to get sponsorship, 100, 150, 250,000. Not every corporate sponsor can write that check without having some kind of accountability involved, right? So all of that is a broad stroke. to say, yeah, there's a big vision about what this is. Absolutely, all the elements are there for the tens of millions, later on, 10 to 15 years, 20s, the hundreds of millions possibility is there, because it all starts with an idea. Doesn't matter how small the idea is, but if you certainly look at it on a long-term basis, that's investment. You start with something small, and over time it appreciates, right? Two things I want to say is, as much as we may not be all comfortable with, say, talking about sponsorship, we can identify a possibility of sponsorship and pass it on to the person that has that has the ability to have that conversation. So for all intents and purposes, we're heat-seeking missiles at this point, right? So we now take the opportunity to say, okay, I don't know much about this, but eventually we're going to all learn in the next 24 months that Wyatt's able, for example, I had a conversation with Wyatt today about the Convention Bureau. He's talking to somebody that I had this idea percolating about the NAACP meeting in Boston. He's meeting with one of the guys that really would be helpful in getting us an audience with the NAACP, who happen to be in every state in the country, and understanding how important this story is to the narrative. The other thing is, every convention bureau in the country, they're trying to address issues of disparities and diverse stories. This is a natural connection to each of those convention and visitors bureaus in particular states, not every state, but they could actually now promote this as a destination, if it's located in those specific states, a destination to go see the African-American narrative. And it could be any other kind of story we develop for a group or specific groups of people, that kind of thing. So there are ideas out there that we can start playing connect the dots, is what I'm saying. If that makes sense. Let's play connect the dots. Don't ask me to produce music. So Gen's got that, right? Gen's got that. Wyatt got that. But I will definitely, I've been playing this whole strategic thinking thing for a long time, running nonprofits, understanding how it goes. And yeah, I sometimes out there, in this whole idea world, but I also know how to drive the agenda to the point of saying, let's make it happen, which is kind of what we have to do with this one, right? That being all said, without going on and on and on forever, is that we all have a specific area of expertise, but we're all going to learn together, that the collaboration, we begin to learn about each other's skills. Wyatt's teaching me about theater. He's doing poetry like he's a poet. You understand what I'm saying? And Yan, you're going to become more versed with this African-American narrative than you ever would have without being involved. Like, you're going to be really authoritative at some point about an African-American narrative than most African-Americans, okay? So don't be surprised. Don't be surprised that we're going to play off each other in a way that will enhance the overall collective. And you're going to be able to speak to things that you right now may not be able to. But if we can say, you know what, I heard about this, let me just forward this info to Robbie, forward this to Wyatt. And if Wyatt can't talk, the next group of people around us, we will empower and deputize to begin to speak on our behalf. And that's kind of the one other thing that we need to do, is to begin to create a barrier of people, or a group of people around us, a satellite around us, who's going to advocate for us, which I think is another thing we can talk about, in the next follow-up meeting from this. Like I said, the next 2 to 4 year, we need people pushing our agenda and giving them the data they need to push what it is we're trying to do. So if that makes any sense. I hope I didn't go on too long, but
No, but that's
I wanted
helpful.
to make sure I shared that.
That's helpful. That's helpful. Well, Gaten, were you going to say something or?
Yeah, no, I was gonna say, and it's not like obviously I'm not going to
Yeah.
try to find some of those people, you know,
Yeah.
even through my parents, there are connections to Microsoft and maybe Amazon out here, and who knows.
Yeah.
I would just funnel them to you though at that point.
Absolutely. That's yeah. And that was not even the intention. It was just to say, listen, I'm learning a lot in this process. What I didn't say was I found myself in a very unfamiliar place with some of the stuff I'm doing. What I realized is if I took it one step at a time, like Tuesday, I do this, Wednesday, and then Tuesday's gone, right? I got through Tuesday. Here's Wednesday. We do what we need to do. And I took it one step at a time. Like what we're building here is not something that each one of us is going to say, yeah, this is how you do it. A lot of it's very new, even though you've done Broadway, you've done things on Broadway. You guys have been at the highest levels of your profession. The fact that we're collaborating on this, it's a new entity. It's a wonderful opportunity. We've got the expertise to do what we need to do. If we don't, we will employ it. I think we're intelligent enough to figure out, I don't know what I don't know. So you know what I'm saying? Yep. We're not going to go like this and say, yeah, man, I got this. No. It's too important and it won't let us go. It doesn't matter what we're doing. I'm thinking about this like almost 24/7, almost, you know?
Yeah, I get it. Well, I'll jump in and say this. I know Gen has to go, and I'm going to have to jump on this call that I told these people I would jump on. You're right. The next iteration of this, I would like to do every Monday with this, and we'll do calls in between. But the one thing that I'm really focused on right now is solidifying the cast to come together for one rehearsal, gathering, dinner, time to say thank you for this year and get ready for next year. That's important because what's happening is, again, you don't know this, but some of the dancers are now working with one of the choreographers doing something on the side, and there are people that are asking what's going on, hey, what's happening? And that's all natural stuff because we don't have a contract with them further than what we've done. So we'd have to re-engage them. And it is important when the energy goes out like that for you to reel it back in somehow and keep people knowing that you are still interested in them because they then move on. But I will just,
Wyatt, to achieve that goal, what do we need to make that possible?
We just need, if we paid the dancers $200 a piece, right, for their time, and I can get free transportation from Steve, our drummer, because he works for Amtrak, right?
Right.
I can stay with a friend in New Jersey. I have family in New Jersey as well. So we're not talking about money to get me there and to stay there. It would just be about being able to pay the dancers and then have maybe a little bit of a dinner that would probably be another couple of $100 for everybody to get a little something to eat. Then that would be it.
Yeah.
So we're talking probably about $2,000 total.
Yeah, it's probably going to be more than that, man. I'm thinking this is going to be around, I'd say if we're going to do something, it should be around $5,000. Just ballpark it. If you hit that number and you fall a little short, you still got it covered, and you need a little something because there's going to be incidentals.
Yeah.
I got to jump, guys.
All right.
Okay. All right. We'll talk again, but I got this on recording, so we're good.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, again. We'll catch up, brother.
Yeah.
Yes,
okay. Yeah. So $5,000.
Yeah.
And we'll see what we can do with Leonard. See if we can get him. He's coming in tomorrow.
Yeah.
And he said he is interested in talking about how he can help to support what we're doing this month or so.
So we can build that into his thing in a way that, you know, it's like, hey, listen, let's start doing this. The other thing I didn't think of, and something we can think about, is start pre-selling tickets for 2023.
Yep.
But we've got to make sure we nail all, those locations down, if it's this place or that place.
Mhm.
Things like that could be, helpful. There's a little bit of money that was on GoFundMe.
Yeah, I think a couple of $100 or something.
So I don't know, do you need to return that, or is that something that can go back into?
Yeah, that could be.
Hmm.
I could. Yeah, I could move that. I mean,
Yeah.
I think. Did I move it already? Did I already use it for something?
Either
Uh,
way,
yeah, it was like 200.
there, but I think, we definitely can use some of those ideas, if we're going to do
Yeah, just to let you know, the t-shirts. I got a bunch of Facebook posts directly to me saying people want to buy t-shirts, and a bunch of people want to buy t-shirts.
So do you have a Cash App?
I do.
So sell them, have them pay you Cash App, give them a shirt, and then send or take the Cash App and just deposit it into the bank.
Yeah,
With the shirts, we can do that temporarily, as a solution.
yeah.
If we
I'm
can hit
down.
you up, their Cash App, and then lump sum, just say X amount of shirts sold, we can record that.
Okay, and then I am
then-
gonna go over to Paul's place and get those prints, and I'm gonna, in that same trip, ask him for a check for our shirts.
Yes, they ain't even get back to me, man. But this is kind of
Yeah.
crazy, man.
Well, I'm just gonna assume
Yeah.
that they're just
They're
slow.
busy.
They're slow. I'm just gonna assume they're slow, and I'm just gonna assume when I get over there to pick up the prints from them
Yeah.
that there'll be a check for the shirts. I'm gonna call
Yeah.
him and say, "Oh, and by the way, when I come over to get the prints, can you
Yeah.
give me the check for the shirts? We need that to
Yeah.
deposit it today."
Exactly. So it's a little bit interesting, but you know what? We're not gonna major in minors.
Right.
Yeah, but yeah, good stuff. I'm definitely with it. Whatever we need to do to make sure that we continue to drive at, getting this energy harnessed in a way that blossoms the idea, the vision. You know what I mean? So
And that's why Leonard
what you
Lee.
need from me, man,
Okay.
I'm here for it, bro.
Okay, brother. Well, listen, let me get on this call and I'll
All right.
send this right to you. I'm going to stop recording now.